Welcome everyone to today's regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 28th, 2026 in the city of Beaumont. I am Mayor Lisa Vanderquack and I'm here with my fellow council members for tonight's meeting. Thank you for those who are joining us, for those who are here in the gallery as well. So tonight we also want to just acknowledge that we're grateful for the land that we are blessed to live and work on, to honor those who came before us. We value the enduring relationships that we have with our French pioneers and Indigenous peoples who continue to share their history, knowledge, and culture with our community. We're also thankful for the generations whose dedication and faith helped shape this community into the beautiful city that is today. So as we move forward in our agenda tonight, we're going to first of all start off with the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Murray, I'll have you move that.
Thank you, Mayor. 2026 regular council agenda be adopted as presented.
We'll vote. Carried unanimously. Next on the agenda, an open forum. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any open forum registrations for this evening.
Thank you. With that, we'll go on to consent agenda. Madam Clerk, if you could read off the consent agenda, and then if any of the council members have an item that they want to pull from the consent agenda, now's the time. We'll just wait for, yeah, no? Okay.
All right. All right. That council consent to the following without debate. That council consent to approve item 5.1, regular council meeting minutes of April 14th, 2026. Item 5.2, special council meeting minutes, April 21st, 2026. Council item 6.3, council policy C50, property tax relief policy revised. Item 6.4, amendment to council policy C52, municipal grant funding program and bylaw 1103-26, council committee omnibus bylaw.
Could I have a, oops, we'll let you finish.
And that is it for the consent agenda this evening.
You're not going to go down, all right. So any, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk?
Yeah, I'd be pleased to move that.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. And that carried unanimously. Wonderful. All right, with that, we'll continue on for the business item 6.1 and CAO. I think we're going to hand it over to Mr. Boyachuk. Is that correct? We'll need a microphone for you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Administration is here today to present the 2025 year-end financial report. So this report provides Council with the financial results for the 2025 municipal operating, utility, and capital budgets, and the 2025 results for each, as well as the closing balances of the city's reserves. This report is part of the MGA legislated requirements and complies with public sector accounting standards, PSAS standards, and we are required to submit our financial statements to the province by May 1st. As we move into the municipal operating, in third quarter of 2025, we had forecasted a municipal operating deficit of $0.2 million. And then the final year end is due to modest and conservative revenue projections in Q3, as well as aggressive bottom line management by administration on the expense side. And I'll talk about some of those details as we get farther down. City Council approved a 5.01 tax increase for 2025, which provided $31.2 million in tax revenue, and that funds our regular operations. We use other revenue streams to fund municipal operations like sales and user charges, government transfers and rental fees. The total budgeted revenue was $60.7 million, and at the end of Q3, we're forecast to have a surplus of $1.8 million. At the end of 2025, the city had received $6.4 million in municipal revenue that was over the budgeted amount. Largely that's attributable to government transfers for capital, so grant dollars coming in from bodies of $3.65 million over budget. Additional requisition taxes at $1.5 million over budget, so those two line items we don't have any control over, as well as government transfers on the operating side of another $0.56 million. In the areas that we do have more control, municipal tax revenue, we were $0.47 million over budget, franchise fees, $0.36 million over budget, and those largely due to the growth numbers that we saw in 2025. So we collected more taxes and generated more franchise fee revenue. We also saw $0.32 million in licenses, permits, and fees, and $0.21 million in sales and user charges. All of that was offset by a shortfall in investment income of $0.85 million. So the government transfers for capital was not previously forecasted, as it's difficult to determine when the province is going to send money, and requisition taxes reflected the increase to the provincial education requisition in 2025. Both of these items appearing in the revenue side are offset by line items one, so there's a requisition expense in the expense side, which neutralizes the $1.5 million, and then in the transfers at the bottom there is the transfer to capital budget that's offset mostly. There's $900,000 difference there. As I said, so significant resident growth in 2025 contributed to the $0.47 million and $0.36 million surpluses in tax revenue and franchise fees. There was, in the permits fines, licenses, permits, fines, $0.32 million was over budget, excessive budget, mostly from planning and development permitting, but is offset by shortfall in fine revenue in protective services. Our sales and user charge revenue was over budget by $0.21 million, and again, that's largely due to planning and development, with a little bit of $0.09 million from infrastructure. We did have shortfalls in childcare at $0.12 million and recreation at $0.09 million. And as I mentioned, investment income didn't perform as well. On the expense side, so we projected, or our expense budget was $59.2 million, and our expenses were actually below budget at year end by $0.69 million. We had projected at the end of Q3 that we would be overspent by 1.37. The two primary places where we recovered the expense piece was in contracted and general services at $2.15 million in savings, and utility network expenses at $0.22 million. Those were offset by, as I mentioned, the increase in requisition expense at $1.5 million, which offsets the requisition revenue up top, and there was increased personnel costs at $0.13 million. The personnel costs overruns were in finance at $0.25 million and protective services at $0.2 million and CAO office at $0.1. There were some departments that came in under budget, so community and social development was under budget by $0.33 million and recreation by $0.06. The contract and general services I expect will probably get a little bit more attention at the $2.1 million. At the end of Q3, we had projected about $900,000 savings, and that was largely due to the ERP. Subsequent to that, we did have savings in, sorry, I'm just going to pull up a different page. Subsequent to that, we did have savings, my apologies. $500,000 in infrastructure, and so that was spread out between roads, parks, buildings, and then we did have some savings in IT infrastructure, or communications and IT infrastructure. These are all largely other than the ERP. So ERP is underway and is still expected to be spent, and we brought a carry forward at the beginning of 2026 for that $1 million. But the other ones were in response to, we were projecting a deficit position And so the communication went out, or the approach from administration was limit spending as much as possible and only do the critical infrastructure. And so that was heard loud and clear. And so we did actually see a savings across many areas, particularly in infrastructure, of they only were proceeding with critical pieces rather than more value-add pieces and stuff like that. So that's why we did see a drastic swing in the change between Q3 and Q4. So there was over $1.3 million change in our savings. And that was due to bottom line management trying to not get into a deficit position for the year end. So it seems like a large number. $1 million of it is ERP, and then the rest of it was a full slowdown, not stop, full slowdown as much as possible. When you look at there's two tables in the report. So there's a summary municipal operating and then summary controllable events. I just want to highlight, so if you look at just our revenue stream on the summary municipal operating, it looks like we had $6.4 million of extra revenue that we hadn't anticipated, or that we missed on ourselves as far as controllable items. But as I mentioned, the $3.5 million, $3.65 million for transfers for capital, so the grant dollars coming in, as well as the additional requisition expenses, is not controllable by the municipality, and we don't actually, it's not additional revenue for usage from that perspective. So when you back out a few of those factors and you look at the right side, we were over revenue. We had surplus revenue of $1.3 million from controllable streams. And our operating expenses were under budget by $2.2 million, not the 0.7 that's on the screen. So it still nets out to the $3.5 million operating surplus from that perspective, but it presents it in a more operational light than the true accounting perspective. So I just wanted to provide context because it looks like administration missed our revenue projection by a whole ton, right? And that's not the truth from what we can control. On the utility side, utility revenues came in $1.5 million favorable, which is attributable to sales and user charges by 0.76 and developer levies by 0.74 million. Water usage increased by 3.3% in 2025, and wastewater processing costs increased by 25%, which both contributed to the 0.92 million favorable variance in sales, users, and charges. On the expense side, utilities came in just a little bit over budget at 0.37 million, which was decreased by contract and general service expense of 0.92 million, but there was an overage in supplies and materials, which reflects the additional water usage charge. So that's 1.29 million. Overall, utility operations netted a $1.16 million surplus. And then we'll talk about reserve activity in a minute. On the capital side, as of December 31st, 41% of the capital budget has been spent. Projects that are not completed by year end have been carried forward into the 2026 budget already, and we've already had that motion come forward to the council. On the renewal side, 58% of the consolidated budget was spent in 2025. Places where there is unspent funds at this point is fleet and equipment replacement, which is largely due to a fire truck apparatus on order. And then some wastewater renewal programs and water renewal system programs that are underway but have not materially spent a lot at this point. There's stormwater renewal and facility renewal programs as well, and technology replacement programs that are all underway, but anticipate spending more into 2026. And again, in any situation where the project closes and there are savings, the money goes back into reserve or the funding source. So for example, if it was grant funded, it would go back to our grant allocation. So all of that money on projects as they close and are underspent go back into municipal coffers from that perspective. The growth side, we saw consolidated growth budget 25% spent with $7.6 million left to spend. And of that 7.6, 5.8 million is related to water system growth program. And then the rest of the variance is spread pretty evenly across the disciplines. The reserves, so the municipal operating budget only required a reserve draw of $0.41 million, and utilities did not require anything. The municipal draw was 1.14 million less than budgeted, and again, that's largely due to the ERP. The ERP is reserve funded from a carry forward from 2025. And so because we did not expense that, so you saw the savings in the contracted and general services, there's also not a draw on reserves in order to pay for that expense that never took place. So that'll all happen in 2026. The remaining difference in the reserve transfers is attributed to best practice that we only draw money if required. We just don't take money from reserve and put it into the budget if there's no expenses to offset it. Otherwise, it just goes back into, it hits a surplus position. And then 2025 was a busy year for Beaumont reserves. We did a restructure, and there was at the beginning of 2025 a $1.7 million deficit from 2024 year end. That drew down the full balance of the former stabilization reserve, but now renamed the M1 Municipal Operations Stability and Contingency, as well as it did draw down on some of the transportation reserve. That M1 reserve that I spoke to, the Municipal Operations Stabilizing Contingency, is below its optimal range of 5 to 15% of the prior year's municipal operating expenses. As part of the next agenda item, so we'll be doing the audit report, and then we have motions for allocating surplus. There's also a recommendation for administration seeking council approval to redesignate some of those reserve balances to smooth out some of the balances that we have. We did come forward in, what was it, late last year, the reserve policy update? Yeah, so we did the reserve policy update in the fall, and administration was able to move up to 10% of reserves within their pieces, but where this is not that. We're just literally here seeking council approval. Since we're here getting the surplus allocated, we'll just seek council approval to move some of the reserve dollars around and balance out the accounts. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Boychuk, for all that. Quick question I have, and then I'll go to councillors who have any questions here. Did you say 1.2 million deficit in childcare? Did I hear that correctly?
Let me check my
Oh,
notes.
0.12.
0.12, yeah. that sounds better.
0.12, okay. Thank you. Going to Councillor Hyde first.
Yes, through the mayor. Thank you for that report. A couple of things that I had just noticed on the actual versus budget summary. One was under infrastructure with fleet, went from 451,000 to 943,000, a difference of 491,822. Just wondering where that.
Sorry, which report are you looking at?
I'm looking at the actual versus budget summary.
Thank you.
Line numbers under infrastructure expenses.
Yep.
Fleet, 451,500 was budgeted. It came in at 943,322, a difference of 491,822. Can you speak to that number?
Not the specific detail. I would guess that likely it was repairs and maintenance work through the year that was beyond normal, but we could circle back and provide that information for sure.
Yeah, it's just a large variance in that one, sort of an idea. The other one is we know that we're going to get hammered on the CEO office expense of 181,542 difference. Are we able to speak to that as well?
As Evan Jay can correct me, as part of our personnel costs, we discount our salaries by department. And in this case, there was no vacancies in the CIO's office, so I think that equaled 0.1 of that number right off the bat. And I'd have to dig in deeper for the other number, other part of it.
Yeah, so part of our budget program that we do is that we have, it's called salary discount within our budget. So we make an assumption based on historical vacancies that we say we're at, say 95% is our historical vacancy perspective, and so we automatically discount all the departments 5%, and then if you don't have a vacancy in your area, you go over budget from that perspective. So it's a process that we're changing in 2027 budget to move those pieces out of departments and have them just in corporate transactions so that a department is not penalized for not having vacancies and not being able to spend their money appropriately, knowing that there are going to be vacancies around the organization that will fill in that gap. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, through the mayor. I think that makes sense to me corporately and such like that. I think that to the people that are watching and such like that, trying to digest that and how it all works out is a little bit more complicated at that point.
And that's why we're planning on changing it for 2027 budget so that it's not that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that. Just a suggestion, and this is, I like the black background, however, I would suggest bolding everything, because the ones that are not bold, oh, there. Is that better, you guys? Yes. You like that better? Okay. All right, we'll go with the white background. We're going to go over to Councillor Penrod, and just, I didn't say this at the beginning, just reminding everyone, right now we're clarifying questions to the admin, one question, maximum two at a time at this point. Go ahead, Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the thorough report. You already answered a couple of my questions, so just another clarifying. You referred to the ERP project on page 15, and we've talked about that previously. Looking again at our reserve balances through the year and just how close to the line we've run a few of them, I thought it was worth asking the question. The ERP project is running behind what we anticipated and scheduled. I've always assumed there was something limiting the work, and so we couldn't spend the money, if that makes sense. But I just wanted to clarify, has there been a time where we just couldn't proceed with the work because we didn't have the money free up?
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, no. So work on the ERP is progressing. It's going slower than desired and hoped at this point. There is some technology challenges with the developer itself. They've discovered a little bit of a hiccup in their system, so we're working with them and our procurement or our implementation partner to move that along. It was a very slow 2025. While we're working that out, we have picked up pace. It's anticipated that late summer, early fall is what our go live target is right now. And so it is not due to financial perspective or position as far as that goes.
Good to hear. I think we're all anticipating that improvement to our corporate services and to our residents and business partners, and just wanted to make sure that wasn't an internal limit to progress, but rather that external one. So thank you. And one more or no? We're doing
One
another
more.
Okay, one more. Good. So page 22, attachment 3. Just wanted to clarify around your use of the forecast to complete. Found that chart really helpful, but I did just want to clarify, is the forecast to complete a figure expressed as additional dollars needed to bring the given project to completion, or are those statements of a refined cost to complete the project?
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So no, it is not additional funds required. It is so if you had a budget of 1.5 million and we're projecting forecast to complete as 1.4 million, we're actually projecting $100,000 savings. That where it's not additional funds, we're actually going to be under budget.
That's the right answer, thank you. And is this an area where we're starting to see some of the cost savings for improvements that we've been making?
Not yet. So because that was part of the 2026 budget process where we protected our procurement advantage or not put ourselves at a disadvantage. This is for 2025 year end. So we won't see those changes and stuff until 2026 reporting and beyond. So this is just this is more bottom line management than it is procurement advantage, any of the savings.
It's a happy surprise. It's hard to believe in the sense that we constantly hear that everything is getting more expensive. And so to see things running under budget is a testament to solid management. Don't know if you can give any more color or detail.
I'm going to cut you off here, just because that's two more questions. We'll come back around if you want more clarification, if that's okay. I'm just going to go over to Councillor Tellenboss. But before we do that, could you please, just for the public, clarify or again, ERP, what it is.
It's an enterprise resource planning module, and so it will be our new accounting software, among other things.
Thank you for that. Councillor Tellenboss.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. I guess first question, obviously you went through quite a bit and really appreciate it. A lot of numbers, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Are you able to just give a quick summary, which I know you did, but just really quick, what really happened here? Where are we at? And what's the plan, especially in terms of the report that was provided? Just that final number, surplus.
So bottom line is that we got about $1 million more revenue than we anticipated. We had $2 million of savings that we bottom line managed to become more aggressive as far as that goes. So that leads to a surplus position of about $3.5 million from an operations perspective. When we look at the financial statements and the PSAS representation, the number is a little bit different because of accounting rules and a number of other adjustments and things that happen that we do accounting-wise. But that money, so the surplus, will be recommended to be put into a number of reserves that helps bolster our financial position for this year and future years going forward.
Perfect, thanks. So in short, good news is we got a little extra money to fill our piggy bank, which is a plan that we tried to do through this budget and obviously future budgets. So good news story. Now, of course, I'm not going to pick on all the positive numbers where there was a surplus. I'm going to pick on some of them where there was a shortfall. And I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but especially on the user fees, I just have a few questions on investments. Hoping someone would be able to provide a little bit of insight as to why we performed under par, I will say, or under our expectations in terms of childcare, in terms of recreation, and in terms of investments, and especially investment.
So on the investment side, part of the approach during Budget 2025 was we accepted a little bit of risk in our investment assumptions in order to manage a tax rate increase. We were hopeful that the market would be beneficial in our area, but then we did have some reserve usage and impact, which impact our ability to generate revenue if there's not a lot of money in reserve, as well as interest rates were not as high as we would have hoped. On the expense side, as far as user fees, it's not that there was loss of revenue. So even sales and user charges was still in a surplus position, just not as much as we had anticipated or forecasted at the end of Q3. So still a surplus, still came in as well as above budget and those pieces. But maybe so as we have different areas projecting revenues and guessing, some people took a more conservative approach. Some people thought things maybe would come out beneficial. So I would say that it was more based on that than a loss of activity.
Perfect. I appreciate that, and yes, it was a surplus, but those two specific areas, recreation's in and around 80,000, I believe, and then 120,000 for childcare. Just looking to see if, I know you had mentioned maybe it was just a wrong estimate. Was there anything broader than that or bigger than that that resulted in that shortfall?
I don't have details that granular.
Okay.
Would anyone in administration happen to know that? No? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, if you could get those back, because I know that they're even in some of that discrepancy from what we heard in the fall in terms of the difference numbers with specifically the childcare one for sure. I'm curious about that. Councillor Cole-Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, on the 2025 actual versus budget, again, not to be picky, but one stood out, protective services, the expense side was over. I think maybe some of that's attributable to that no absence or absenteeism or vacancy rather, but the revenue side was down from budget about 64% of planned budget. I was just curious if what may have happened there. Was it one big driver, or what might be behind that? No. Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, good to put you back. Also, did I miss, is Ms. Morrison online as well? Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't ignoring her if she was. Go ahead.
Sorry, when I prepared the report, I was at a more high level, so for, the granularity questions, we'll have to get back to you on that as far as that goes. There wasn't material from a financial statement perspective of 60,000, so that's why I didn't do the full, every line item review from that perspective, but we can bring that back.
Okay, awesome. Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My question actually is under People Services. Some of my other questions were also answered, so good work, Council. Just curious, we have an amount listed for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm wondering if that is that also a full-time employee? Or just an expenditure?
So through the mayor to Councillor Murray, so I believe that there is an FTE associated with that program in 2025.
Okay. I wondered because, and I needed to verify this and I forgot to, but I think in our budget deliberations for 2026, it wasn't listed separately like that as that cost. So I just was curious as to why it seemed different this time.
So again, this is in 2025, and I know that there have been some reassessments of the activities within People Services. So that's why I think the change in structure was prepared for 2026 budget. So it's not specifically for that activity at this point, and is providing other services.
Okay.
I'll go to the CA.
Yeah, you covered it. That position's been changed to a business agent or a HR strategist. Still included, there's also others as well. Still included, there's also others as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. All right, so at this point, we need to go to a motion. Is that correct? Thank you for all the work that you put into this and bringing. All right, so I'll need Councillor Goldsmith.
Thank you. I move that the April 28th, 2026 report, 2025 year-end financial report be received for information.
Any more discussion? We'll go to a vote. But I know that you weren't prepared for some of those detailed questions, and so we'll look forward to some of that information coming back to us. But going forward, let's try and keep our questions as well, maybe a little bit more high-level governance. CAO, you want to say something?
Thank you very much. Yeah, and apologize, you weren't ready to go that level of detail. It's more of a high level. But I think it's important that we take the win here. This is a very good year end, and it's going to help us going forward with the reserve transfers and even setting that tax rate. You know, Councillor Natellenbosch, you asked the question, what's the bottom line here? The bottom line is we've got a surplus that we can now bolster our reserves for. And yes, there are areas that we're trying to improve our financial reporting and our forecasting, and that's just going to get better as the years move forward. So this is a great job, all of you. So thank you.
Yes, definitely. We celebrate that for sure, because I know that we want to get those reserves healthy, up and healthy. All right, so we'll move on now to our next section, which is the 6.2 business item, 2025 consolidated financial statements approval. And we'll go back over to you, Mr. Boyachuk.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I invite our auditors to come up and speak to the financial statements, I'll just go over a couple of housekeeping things. So administration presents the City of Beaumont consolidated financial statements and audit results for the year end December 31st, 2025. With the external audit complete, administration requests the council approve the City of Beaumont draft financial statement. We'll provide information on the results. Through the results of the audit through their presentation of the City of Beaumont audit results. Just to go back to some of the pieces, so the net impact of the 2025 year end that the city sustained a PSAS net municipal operating surplus of $3.9 million. We're recommending that $0.6 million be transferred to the M5 Municipal Land Reserve, $0.6 million to the Municipal Capital Reserve, and the balance of about $1.7 million to the M1 Municipal Operations and Stabilization and Contingency Reserve. In addition, the city generated a PSAS net surplus through utility operations of $0.5 million. We recommend transferring that net surplus to the utilities operations stabilization and contingency reserve. In addition to the surplus allocations, administration is also requesting reallocations of $1 million from the M3 Municipal Life Cycle Infrastructure Reserve to the M2 Municipal Capital, and $1 million from the M3 Municipal Infrastructure Life Cycle Reserve to the M4 General Land Reserve. On the utility side, we're recommending a $5.5 million transfer from utilities, operations, stabilization, and contingency to the U3 Utilities Life Cycle Infrastructure, and $1.5 million from the U1 Utilities Operations, Stabilization, and Contingency to the Utilities Capital. As I mentioned in the previous agenda item, that this is just about putting the money in the right places that pays for the certain part. So when we did the reserve adjustment last year, for example, utilities, all of the utilities, there was just one reserve. And so all of that money is in operations, stabilization, contingency. Because that pays for both growth capital and infrastructure capital, we need to move some of the money from that stabilization into the appropriate reserves that are designed to pay for certain activities. So this is housekeeping in nature, and we can, I'd be happy to take any questions on some of the transfer around that, but it's largely housekeeping with council's authority to put money where it is best allocated and best fit.
Thank you for that explanation.
And so with that, I'd invite our auditors to come up and present their findings. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep, come right up. If you want to just press the microphone button there so I can turn it on for you. Oh, sorry. Before we go there, did you have a question, Councillor Murray? Okay.
Just a quick question. You have the municipal land reserve as well. You have the general land reserve. Can you just explain the difference of this two?
So the municipal land reserve is an MGA statute requirement reserve, and that's for municipal surplus. So for example, if a developer gives us land as part of the development agreement that's set aside for schools or parks or whatever, and either we have to sell it and trade, it has to go into that. It could only be used for that function. So it's land that's gifted to us, and if we sell it, the money has to go into that reserve. Or if the developer doesn't have land, they'll often pay an equivalent fee that goes into that reserve. And so that money is set aside specifically only for municipal reserve activities. And the general land reserve is whatever land the city would like to purchase and do things with on their own. And so we have full control over that, and we can spend that money in any way that we like. We could reallocate the money out, but the M5 Municipal Land Reserve is only for development or equivalents from that perspective. Does that make sense?
Thank you for the explanation. You may go ahead if you want to introduce yourself. Let's try that again.
Table. My name is Ashley Suits. I'm your engagement principal on the year-end audit, and I've been working with the City of Beaumont for the last several years. Before we go into the report, I just want to send a big thank you to Maureen and Jay and their team, as it does take a significant amount of effort to be sitting here today to present the results. And we know they have their day-to-day duties on top of the year-end audit when it comes in from there. So to be sitting here from when we start the audit to today does take a significant amount of effort. And we just want to say a big thank you to them. So going through the report, if we start on the executive summary page that everyone has in front of them, this is just to highlight where we are at as part of the year-end audit. So we are required to meet with council today to go through the results of our year-end audit and discuss our strategy. These four, where we expect to be today, there's a flurry of activity that goes right up to our audit report date, which will be today. And those 4 bullets have been satisfied as of today. So we will be ready to issue come after this meeting, assuming approval. Similar to an audit, so we do take a risk-based approach. As part of our planning procedures, we go through and discuss significant changes in operations. We look at dollar values of financial statements, changes in the economic environment, and those areas with greater risk of material misstatement, we spend more time and attention on that. So We use the concept of materiality when we look at that, which is a quantitative value. And I know Jane Marine can attest that doesn't mean when we have our materiality, we don't look at things underneath that level as well. So we do look at things below that, and things are subject to random testing at that point. Audit risks, when we look at that on the next page. So these are areas of significant risks that we've highlighted of greater area and attention that we focused on. So the first one being fraud from revenue recognition. This is presumed in all entities. So we focus our attention specifically on government transfers, both operating and capital, to make sure the revenue being recognized is appropriate and in accordance with PSAS. And fraud risk from management override. So regardless if you are a mom and pop shop or somebody very large organization that you're fully segregated, have a team of 25 in the finance department, this is a presumed risk of fraud that management can override the controls in place. The right-hand side highlights specific procedures that we have performed throughout our testing, and both for the fraud risk of revenue recognition and management override, we identified no issues or concerns that we would want to bring to our attention as a result of our audit procedures. On to the next page. We also look at the asset retirement obligation at year end. So areas where there are what we call significant estimates, you can't simply trace to an invoice that this is the expenditure that they paid. An asset retirement obligation is at the end of a useful life of an asset. How much is the city or the city's obligated to remediate the land or the area or the building that you've gone into? So management back in 2023 engaged a third party to do a assessment on those buildings that they had they identified as an area of higher risk to have an existence of an ARO. So tends to be in older buildings asbestos. So you need to, when you either demolish or sometimes when you sell it, you need to remediate that. So when they hired that third party, expert, they came up with an estimate of how much would this cost in the future. So this is a liability on your balance sheet, and management reevaluates that liability every year on their estimate of how much will it cost us in today's dollars to settle that liability in the future. Now, they look at things like, did we incur any costs to remediate the liability? Because often, some years you might remediate some of that asbestos work, or did we incur any more new buildings or purchase any new buildings where asbestos might be there that we need to remediate, or enter into new contracts that might expose us to additional asset retirement obligations. So we do spend a significant amount of time on this. There's a liability that has been recorded of $970,000. This is in the future. So this is not going to happen, not anticipated, I guess, based on management's knowledge, to incur in the next year, but it's accounting standards require you to put that onto the statement of financial position immediately. Fraud and illegal acts. So we do consider what fraud and illegal acts in the year. We inquired of management. They are not aware of any that would bring to our attention. We also ask of the committee if they are aware of anything that we would need to be brought, but nothing has been identified on that matter. Management consultations with experts. Again, we just note that Alberta Safety and Environmental Services was engaged in 2023. Management considers that information, being that it is from 2023, if there's any change to the environment that would cause an update, nothing was noted at this point. As I spoke to earlier on the next page, accounting estimates is where we spend some additional time on, as you can't just trace to an invoice. So those estimates that we do spend more time on, the collectability of accounts receivable. We look at the useful life of tangible capital assets and your corresponding rate of amortization, and the remainder of those items. The right-hand side, again, goes through some more details of specific procedures that we did. There's nothing to suggest that the estimates management is using are not appropriate in the current year. On to the next page. So the next page talks about adjustments and unadjusted items that we identified as part of our audit procedures. So as I spoke to earlier with Maureen and her team, this is a very clean audit for me sitting here today, a very clean audit report to be issuing for the size that the city is. So we have no adjusting items that we identified. and one unadjusted item. So an unadjusted item is a difference that we identified, but management determined they're not reflected in the financial statement. So whether it's quantitatively, or in this case, there was a correction to a 2024 accrual in the current year. So it's in 2025. We said it actually should have been in 2024. Your net ending, like reserves and net assets are okay. It's just between opening. So the $479,000 represents less than 1% of your accumulated surplus and earnings in the year. Management determined that individually and in aggregate, it's not material. And this will fall off next year. So it's a 1-year thing. Internal controls. No problem. So internal controls, as part of our year-end audit, if you want to flip 2 pages, there we go. We are required to understand internal control and business processes around the financial reporting aspects of the city, so that we don't necessarily go down to operational type of level. We're not required to go down to operational level control discussion. So based on our work around the financial reporting, we have no observable observations that we report. We have some minor ones that we discuss with management, but nothing that is significant that would not, or that would result in a material misstatement in the financial statements. We talk about cybersecurity every year. It is just a hot topic and a reminder and a threat that organizations of all size face every day and every year. So that being also the best defense to cybersecurity is human control. From there, when we hear those instances, you usually also hear the story of something that we were supposed to do did not happen from a human level. So we just make that a reminder to the council and to city. We have included an appendix in the back just talking about some of those additional services that we're providing. We see organizations of all size. We do health security checks, etc., but just reminding that it's a hot topic. From that side, we do inquire of management. They're not aware of any cybersecurity instances during the year that didn't go detected at that matter. Independence, we include our annual independence letter. We are independent of the city of Beaumont. We do have perceived threats of independence, so when we identify adjusting journal entries or provide comments on financial statements, but management reviews those and accepts them, so we are not acting as management in any capacity. Technical highlights. So in the very back, there's some very small fine print about some technical highlights. So we always include changes to accounting and auditing standards that are coming and bring that to the attention. So the big one that's coming for PSAS organizations is there's a fundamental change to the PSAS framework and the accounting standards. So management's going to need to consider what that looks like for the city from there. The nice part is it's going to affect every city from that matter. So there's going to be lots of announcements at all from what that looks like. It will not change how you recognize things or the dollar value. It's expected just to change the financial statement presentation. From an auditing standard, no expected significant changes to impact the city going forward. And then the remainder of the audit results. Appendix A is more detail on our overview and approach and our strategy, the roles and responsibility of City Council, management, and that of Doan Grant Thornton. We talk more about the materiality and fraud risk considerations. I won't go into detail within that unless there's specific questions. Appendix B highlights some additional areas of risk and procedures that we concluded. Again, no significant findings that we would need to report. Appendix C is our draft auditor's report. So this is a lot of words, so it's a clean audit opinion. It highlights at the top, so that's what that is. It is dated today, assuming council approves the financial statements, and it will be released tomorrow morning, first thing, or this evening. And the management representation letter is also included, which both Jay and Mike signed today. And that's everything, unless there's questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Suits. Is that correctly? Yeah. And yes, thank you so much to Ms. O'Neill and Mr. Wachuk as well for the work that you both. Oh. There's 2 Maureen's. Oh, the other Maureen. I was wondering. Thank you for all the work that you put into this, to put it together to increase the resident confidence in and trust that everything is working above board and that we have done our due diligence to make sure of that, and so thank you so much for your presentation. I'm going to open it up to any councillors, any questions that you have? None? Okay, thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
go for it.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. Again, really appreciate also, I mean, with any audit, the independent side of it as well, having independent auditors. I'm going to ask the exact same question that I had asked Jay here. In, one paragraph, are you able to outline a summary of the, what are we at here, 30-some pages report? Like, I know you went through it, but my reading through it is there's no concerns, and based on your audit criteria, we're in good standing as a city and a municipality.
So that gets difficult. No concerns, like, from the accuracy, or I guess from the values that are presented in the financial statements, we are comfortable that they're not materially misstated from there. So that's from there. There's no significant internal control findings that we would want to bring to the attention from that perspective. To clarify, you're all good it's a broad statement for that, and I want to make sure, because it's definitely limited to the financial information that is presented within the financial statements.
And I think what I'm really getting at is trust within government, trust within administration is an important factor. So in terms of making sure that the numbers align and they are stated as true based on the information you provided, it would be fair to say we're all good there.
Management did not hinder and gave us all the information that we requested, and the numbers that we're comfortable that they're not materially misstated.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. All right, so I see no other questions. Thank you so much again, and thank you.
Have a good night.
Right. You too. It's fine. All right, so I think we have a motion. Motions? A few, yes.
Motions just to
Please.
make it a little bit easier for council.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Madam Clerk. It'd be awesome.
That council adopt the 2025 audited consolidated financial statements as set out in attachment 1 in the 2025 audited consolidated financial statements. That the transfer of the net municipal operating surplus in the amount of $3,869,869 be transferred as follows: $600,000 to M5 Municipal Land Reserve, $1.6 million to M2 Municipal Capital Reserve, and $1,669,869 to M1 Municipal Operations Stabilization and Contingency Reserve be approved. And that the transfer of $1 million from the M3 Municipal Life Cycle Infrastructure, my apologies, that the transfer of the net utilities operating surplus in the amount of $520,995 be transferred to U1 Utilities Operations Rate Stabilization and Contingency Reserve be approved. That the transfer of $1 million from M3 Municipal Life Cycle Infrastructure Reserve to M2 Capital Reserve be approved. That the transfer of $1 million from M3 Municipal Life Cycle Infrastructure Reserve to M4 General Land Reserve be approved. That the transfer of $5,500,000 from U1 Utilities Operations Stabilization Contingency to U3 Utilities Life Cycle Infrastructure Reserve be approved, and that the transfer of $1.5 million from the U1 Utilities Operations Stabilization and Contingency to U2 Utilities Capital Reserve be approved.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Hyde? No.
Yeah, I'll motion all of that and take a breath.
Thank you.
Any discussion on that? We'll vote. And that carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're on, oh no.
We got another, did we have another motion?
That's sorry, I'm not next.
No, I just didn't know if there was another, there was a few motions, if that's the only one for this section?
Those are the only motions
Okay,
for this section. Mayor.
perfect.
We're
Awesome.
on item 6.5 now.
Thank you so much. Yep, bye-bye. Okay, we will move then to the next, which is the motion following notion, motion following notice. 6.5. Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. Tonight, I motion that by the May 12th, 2026 council meeting, administration prepare a proposed amendment to bylaw 1024-22, Community Standards Bylaw, Section 40, by deleting the existing text and replacing it with the following. Each construction site shall, at all times during active work, be equipped with a dedicated waste bin fitted with a secure lid and maintained in a closed condition except when in use. All waste and construction materials shall be placed within the bin and shall be contained so as to prevent any material from being blown, scattered, or otherwise leaving the site. The storage of loose waste or construction materials directly on the ground is prohibited. And that a definition be included for loose waste and construction materials. Thank you, and I'll speak to the motion.
Yeah, go ahead and speak to it, please.
Yeah. So I've prepared a statement here I'd like to open up with. As Beaumont continues to grow, we're seeing and feeling some pressures that come with it. Construction activity is visible all around our expanding community. As I bring this motion forward tonight, this construction activity is causing real impacts to surrounding neighborhoods and neighbors. Quite frankly, this is an issue we shouldn't have to be bringing forward. Basic construction site cleanliness, keeping waste contained, and preventing debris from blowing into surrounding properties should already be a standard practice. However, we're seeing that it's not happening consistently. As a result, our municipality is spending significant taxpayer money, administrative effort, and municipal enforcement time dealing with something that I believe is quite preventable. This proposed amendment is about setting a clear, reasonable expectation. It proposes secure, lidded waste bins at active construction sites, and just as importantly, it makes clear that the storage of loose waste and construction materials directly on the ground is prohibited. That's a key piece, because once materials are left exposed, they inevitably end up scattered beyond the site and into the community. These are simple, practical standards. They help keep our streets and neighborhoods clean, reduce enforcement demands, and support the level of livability our residents expect. This isn't about adding a necessary burden. It's about simply keeping construction sites clean and construction waste contained on each site. At the end of the day, growth should not come at the expense of quality of life in our neighborhoods, and it shouldn't require ongoing enforcement for issues that are entirely avoidable. I add, for clarity, that we do have bylaws that currently allow for this enforcement, and that is occurring. This would be a step further in that direction. I'm pleased to bring this forward for council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. So just a quick question of clarification in terms of you're not requesting that the city provide these, but that they would require that any of the builders have these on hand.
That's right, yeah. What's proposed is that each site would have a bin with a lid on it, and that's what we should discuss tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Natellenbos?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk, for bringing this forward. I do just have a quick question. Did you have the opportunity to kind of evaluate costs between, I guess, I'd say there's 3 or 4 options here. A, there's a homemade bin, which we'll say costs next to nothing. B, a traditional steel bin without the lid. And then C, a bin with a lid. Do you know roughly the cost difference between, I guess, B and C?
Yeah, no. At this point, for me, the outcome is what I'm focusing on, not the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colesmith?
Thank you. I think I see where you're going with this. Like, I agree, keeping the neighborhoods clean. Maybe a question for admin, what is missing in the current Section 40 that would be addressed by this section? Section 40 currently has provisions requiring a bin. What would this allow us to do that we don't have now?
Thank you for the question. Can I take some liberties with my answer? Because I've been giving this a lot of thought. We've checked other municipalities, and there are none that require bins with lids, although that's not what you're saying. You're saying secured lid, so that gives some flexibility. It is a challenge right now getting out there. We go out one week and we go back out the next week, and it's a mess again, to the point where we just made a decision last week that we're going to bring in a summer student to help with our compliance officer in getting this construction waste taken care of. It's a matter of not having enough people, not having enough resources to run around and check these people. Some of them just don't care, but we are seeing it get better. What I would ask, if there's a consideration, is we've pulled some other bylaws from around the region that are talk a little bit more specific about where the waste can be and not be. Containers being 80% full, nothing on the ground. And I'm wondering if you would, which is included some of that, Councillor Van Newkirk, but I'm wondering if you would be comfortable with us coming back with a proposal and quickly to some amendments on the bylaw based on what we've looked at after seeing your motion following motion. Motion following notice.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, tonight for me is as much about the conversation towards a solution as it is about the solution in front of us right now. I recognize that a bin with a lid on it sitting at every house is going to be logistically challenging in the region, right? I recognize and acknowledge that, and I actually don't know if that's the right solution, but we have to start somewhere. I would be happy with administration, doing as you suggested, CAO, coming back with some suggested wording, but I'm pretty strong on the fact that we can't be storing waste on the ground and that the waste on sites needs to be contained. And what I see when I drive around is some of the white bags that are meant to store waste would store waste if there wasn't 450 loose pieces of wood piled on it and it was collapsed, or the bin that was hired out to be on site was used instead of a 4-foot mound of drywall dust and drywall pieces sitting beside the bin, right? Like there's money being spent for these solutions and the follow through is just not there. So, that, and I know municipal enforcement is seeing that as well. So Mayor, that's the long answer to yes. I would look to legislative services for some guidance on how we would modify, amend, change what's in front of us right now. It probably includes and bring back a report by. The last thing I would say on timing is my preference would be to get on this. That's kind of why I was bringing it forward now, and I'd like to get on it and keep it simple enough so that if and I'm not going to presuppose the outcome here, but if this was to pass in some form and then get a report back, I'd like to see a quick turnaround on that piece of the community standards bylaw updated, and we'll worry about the other pieces of the community standards bylaw later that might need updated. So that's my preference.
So I understand the spirit of it for sure, and I agree with you, but so what you're proposing, CAO, is that we maybe table this? Is that what you're asking?
Don't get me into legislative stuff. That gets me troubled. But hear me out. I hear what you say. I think we can turn this around quickly. I've shared some wording. I've got some wording that I think will deal with it on the ground from one of our regional municipalities who are known as being the best at this. So I think we can turn this around in 1 or 2 meetings. Whoever's going to write that's going to kick me. But as procedurally, I don't know what you want us to do, Shalane.
Thank you. So there is a motion on the floor that needs to be dealt with before we can do anything else. If a councillor Van Newkirk would like to withdraw his motion, he can withdraw his motion with council's consensus. It is on the floor. If the CAO would like to provide me with some of the wording that he spoke of just a few minutes ago, I can definitely draft a motion that would bring a report back as Councillor Van Newkirk said he would be comfortable with.
Can I provide?
And a timeline.
Just 1 second. I'll let you, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, I would prefer to work with the motion that is on the floor rather than rescind. And if that is too legislatively cumbersome, let me know, because it could be. I would be interested in hearing what Councillor Natellenboss might add here before we get too far down a path.
Sure. I'm going to go to Councillor Hyde first just because he was in the queue, and then we'll go in in sequence here.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Absolutely agree with the spirit of this, Councillor Van Newkirk. We still have a lot of issues, especially with our farmland and such like that, of having a lot of waste and materials ending up in where it shouldn't be. I'm just wondering, there's when I look at this, I think about, let's say, a shingler that backs up his 3-ton truck and starts throwing all the wasted shingles off to re-roof his roof. He's got to go get a bin, bring it, and do it, where he could just bring his 3-ton and throw it all inside there and throw a tarp over top of it. So I'm wondering if this is a secure lid is maybe taking it just a little bit too far and maybe just secured, as opposed to, and that could be a strong mesh net, that could be a tarp, that could be anything like that. But they have to be secured. I'm just wondering if saying a lid is probably just a little bit too far. Maybe just secured would be somehow put into there. That's kind of where I would be going. Simply because I look at things like dump trucks that have a dedicated tarp that flies back over top of it so the rocks don't fly over the place. Those type of things, I understand where you're going with this, but if we can find something in the happy medium in the middle, I think that might be more presentable to our construction workers.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Cole-Smith and then Chalmers, and you can answer Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, in the same vein, I think secure cover, something to keep that garbage in and keep the insulation out of our ponds and the neighbors' yards would be great. I did have a question about the active work and what the intent was there. I think it means that while work is, while the site is under construction rather than while somebody is working there. But that's just a small thing. And as far as the timeliness, if this goes to addressing the issue, I'm on board with some iteration of this to get us there.
CAO, did you have something to add to that?
Are you okay, Nathan, if I just I'm just going to offer something process-wise?
Yeah.
And I'm cautioning you that we're getting into crafting policy on the fly, which we never want to do. Well, I never want to do. Another thought, Councillor Van Newkirk, is that we add some wording on there, that we bring back recommendations, legislative recommendations, or wording, something along that line that meets the spirit of intent. Because when I read this and I look at some of the stuff that we've already uncovered, we can cover this. We can cover every single one of these things with some clear definition on what it is and what it's not, and it doesn't have to talk about secure lid or anything, but give us an opportunity to come back with some legislatively reviewed language to go into the bylaw, something along those lines. Sorry, Nathan.
That's okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Talonbos and then to you, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. I think this is something that needs to be dealt with sooner or later. This has been a growing concern, whether it's the farmers that have the agricultural land or it's a resident within the neighborhood that's dealing with garbage going in their lawn. So I'd like to put forward the friendly amendment that we add just at the end, or other options to better contain construction waste. So I guess, yeah,
So
Councillor
Councillor Van Newkirk, would you want to comment on that or accept that?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good add, Councillor Tellenboss, and admin, I think, hears that, and I think, after listening to the CAO a bit, I think we should punt this back towards the administrative team and, figure out the bit of wording that needs to go back on this to, and bring it back a report with options somehow, rather than direct the policy change tonight. I don't know if we need to have a recess to figure that out or not. That I'll leave that up to administration and ledge services, or as originally suggested, maybe it's cleanest to rescind this motion and then make another. But if we can work with this, it's on the floor. I'm open to suggestions, I guess, from ledge services.
Okay, I'm going to go to the Madam Clerk to advise us on this.
If it's okay, if I can listen to Councillor Murray before she goes home, because I don't want to take a break yet, and then Councillor Murray comes back with suggested amendments or anything like that before I provide anything.
Okay, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate or state it again that our current bylaw already has something very similar to this with a type of lid. Is that correct? Did you guys say that earlier?
Ms. Dargy?
Thank you. So I've just pulled up the bylaw, and as it currently is, it doesn't specifically state that the containers have to have a lid. There's 2 sections in the bylaw that indicate that the construction site shall have a waste container to ensure that waste construction materials are placed in the container to prevent the material from being blown away from the construction site. So there's an implied what needs to be done. And no person shall allow loose construction material to be stored on or accumulated on a construction site unless it is stacked or stored on the property in an orderly manner. So this takes care of active construction materials and not capable of being blown around the construction site or area or off the construction site. That's the current wording.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I guess it's certainly your motion, but I do think there is a little bit of an urgency to this, and I think it would be wise for us to add something about a lid if we can swing it sooner than later.
Thank you. I'll put it back to you, Madam Clerk.
So yes, if I could just have a brief recess so I can just go over and take into consideration and then also talk to the CAO about some wording there and us.
Okay, would 10 minutes be sufficient?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, we'll come back in 10 minutes. Back from our break. I'm going to put it over to Madam Clerk for, I believe, a revised motion. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for giving me that time to work on that motion. So we've left the motion that Councillor Van Newkirk put forward, but then we've just added on to the end of that will hopefully address. Let me just bring it up here on the monitor. So it states now, and provide alternative options to address uncontained construction waste and materials.
And to piggyback off of that, I just want to confirm to council and to the public that we will be bringing back an amended bylaw, not a report with options, but when we talk about options, it's maybe some of that wording will change, but we will bring back an amendment for you to vote on, and then it can be implemented immediately.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Van Newkirk, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I would accept that wording and provide alternative options to address uncontained construction waste and materials. So thank you. Appreciate
Perfect.
everyone's input on that.
Okay. Any further discussion about Councillor Natellenbus?
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, as mentioned amongst the group here, it's somewhat disappointing that we have to get to this point because there are some very reputable builders where this isn't the case. You go and visit their site, they take pride in their site, there's no garbage on their site, everything's secured and taken away on a regular basis. However, there are some other builders where that isn't the case. There's garbage all over the lots. It happens continuously, even after enforcement. So there needs to be a change, and I think this change will help, again, as long as people follow through with it. So I would encourage the builders that don't comply with existing bylaws to make sure they do it, because I know it's something that we're doing. But secondary to that, you know, it's unfortunate, again, that some other people may be affected by this, even if they comply with all our current bylaws. But I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, see no other discussion requests. We will go to a vote. Unless you want to speak to it, Councillor Van Newkirk, you're good. Okay. And that carried unanimously. Great, thank you for the. We will now move on to 7.1. Mr. Bwaszczuk has been waiting patiently, I'm sure. And you're up again. Bylaw 1100-26.
Thank you, Mayor. You guys are getting the full dose of finance tonight, so. So administration is coming forward today seeking approval of the property tax and supplementary tax bylaw. What the property tax and supplementary tax bylaw What this does is empowers administration to collect. Important thing about operations is we have to be able to fund them. So on November 27th, Council approved a 2026 municipal operating budget, which included a 4.79% property tax increase. This property tax supplementary property tax bylaw has been prepared based on that approved budget. The property tax rates presented in the attached bylaw will achieve a municipal tax revenue in the amount of $34,938,827, as well as requisition tax revenue in the amount of $13,511,647,000, which is split variously between the Alberta School Foundation, Leduc Regional Housing Foundation, designated industrial property taxes, as well as additional forecasted supplemental assessments. Although the blended tax levy, the net of growth, has increased 4.79%, the impact of the increase between properties will vary. The variation depends on several factors, including but not limited to assessment value changes due to inflation. While these assessment changes do not affect the overall budget, they can cause tax shifting between properties and property types. So as we set the tax rates, so we set them in a fair and transparent and equitable manner as guided by Council Policy C48. There's several steps. So step one is to determine the revenue requirement through the annual budget process, which we've done. Then we finalize assessment, calculate assessment growth, and amend the approved budget if necessary. No amendment was required. The net tax increase remains at 4.79%. We determine the tax revenue applicable for rate setting. So we look at all the sources, including the annexed lands, in particular to our west. This year, there was a change. So there's an agreement, I think it's 50 years or 60 years agreement that says the annexed residential land will get the lower of either Beaumont's mill rate or Leduc County's residential mill rate. Their mill rate did go up this year, so there is additional revenue coming in. After that, we convert the assessment to reflect our city policy. We do have a 1 to 1.4 ratio of residential to non-residential assessment. This policy can be adjusted by council any time between adoption of today, so between now and the setting of the next year's budget is when council can address this policy about the ratio. We are planning on bringing this back in July for council consideration and renewal as part of our update. We then calculate the rates. The non-residential rate is calculated by a multiplier of 1.4, and then the same process of dividing the revenue by the applicable assessment is used to set rates all across the board. And then we approve the bylaw, and then we will send out notices, and taxes will be due June 30th. I just want to stress a single point. So there's, I guess, two single points, so that'll be 2 points. One is that the city is revenue neutral. We have a revenue neutrality principle, so that with changes in assessment goes up, assessment goes down, the city does not make or lose money. We have set a revenue requirement through the budget. That is the amount that we will collect. We allocate it through the mill rate to assess based on everybody's property. They pay a prorated amount based on their property times the mill rate. That's the amount of money that the city collects. We don't collect anything else. The other piece that I wanted to highlight is that the mill rates this year are actually lower than the mill rates last year. So in the instance that your property value did not change, your municipal portion of the tax bill would actually be less this year, even though we had a 4.79% increase. Now, if your assessment went up, then I can't speak to what your tax bill is going to do, and I'm not even going to get into the education side and all of those pieces. So your overall tax bill probably went up regardless, but the municipal portion of what we collected would have come down, and that either is through your assessment maintaining itself, and we did have $600 million of assessment growth in 2025, so that burden is now being shared by a lot more residences and things. So your actual individual taxes could have come down a little bit. So just wanted to share that highlight. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Boyajek, for your report. And I will open it up right now for any clarification questions. And seeing none, we'll put a motion up.
Thank you. I'd move that bylaw 1100-26, property tax and supplementary property tax be given first reading.
Any discussion? We'll go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. We'll now go on to the second reading. And we'll need a Councillor Hyde. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cole-Smith.
I'd like to motion that bylaw 1100-26, property tax and supplementary property tax be given second reading.
Any discussion? Debate? Okay, see none. Go to a vote. And carried unanimously. And now we'll need to have a motion to consider third reading, and we'll go to Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. That bylaw 1100-26, property tax and supplementary property tax be given considered for third reading.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. And then if you want to stay on the mic there for the next one, Councillor Hyde.
Sure.
And that carried unanimously. So now we go into the third reading.
I'll move that bylaw 1100-26, property tax and supplementary property tax be given
There's a word missing there.
third reading. Would that be third in there?
Should be third reading. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Awesome. Thank you so much. For CAO update. Is that just information only, or are you actually going to bring an update? Sorry, I didn't know if there was something just, sorry.
I wasn't going to do
scratch
anything
that.
different.
Thanks. I wasn't sure if there was a submitted PDF. Go for it.
Okay. You sure? All right. So we'll put it up on the screen as well, and that'll be included in next week's package. Today is a National Day of Mourning. It's a day to honor those affected by workplace incidences and reflect on our shared responsibility to keep one another safe. When you look at the numbers of employees who in a year, it's staggering. New things that are coming into the workplace include psychological safety and mental health. So this is a day to honor all of those in the workplace that are dealing with those issues. Community services, the youth center is continually getting bigger and bigger and used more and more. Recently, they had 500 youth attended the Youth of the Month presentation at J.E. LaPointe School, so that's pretty cool. The wards were given a warm welcome, and the students and their families expressed their appreciation for services as supported by the CBYC and the staff and their partners. I feel there is a story in the Nouvelle that is coming out this week, or last week. I think it was last week because I saw it. The painting for the Youth Center mural is set to begin on May 1st. The Vibrant project is a big step toward bringing creativity and community spirit into the space, and we've got some pictures to show you of what's going where. And you can see the east wall is a flower bed, and then there's a north wall, south wall, and sorry, the east wall flower bed, and then there's the east wall. I like the east wall one myself. The coyote thing's kind of an insider, isn't it? Those that have been on past councils. FCSS, past month, FCSS offered a free online grief, loss, and healing group, which was facilitated by Tacit Knowledge, and is planning on an upcoming workshop on managing cortisol. Naturally, the team completed 67 volunteer income tax program intakes, supported by 4 dedicated volunteers. The Home Alone program remains popular, reaching 179 children so far this year in both FCSS and grade 4 classrooms. The youth outreach continues through schools, the office, and the CBYC, including a recent substance use workshop and support for the teen takeover event with 150 participants in the BSRC. And that's when we opened the place up to just the teens, and they all showed up and had a ball. Additionally, the adult and seniors coordinators continue monthly Action for Happiness sessions and recently presented at the Beaumont 50 Plus Club. Infrastructure, street sweeping has started, and with this warmer weather and drier weather, we'll be able to get moving fairly quickly. Residential and arterial sweeping is underway. We prioritize main roads to clear the winter debris. There was quite a bit of product that was put on there, so we asked people to be patient with us. Pothole repairs, hot mix patching will start May 1st. That's typically when asphalt plants start up. Again, we have high traffic roads are prioritized, and then crews will transition into residential neighborhoods. I was in the city of Edmonton the last couple days, and their situation for potholes and our situation for potholes do not compare. We are in really, really good shape, but there are areas that we need to fill, and we do every year. Our summer students joined us yesterday. They'll go through some training, and then their focus will be on spring cleanup. Sports fields, been a tough spring with all the moisture and cold, so we're monitoring those for the moisture levels. We've got to be careful, because if you get on them too soon, we ruin them. So we're still hoping to have them open next week. Line painting will begin in mid-June. Typically do that after all the pothole repairs and the street sweeping is completed. Again, it's execution dependent on the sweeping program and overnight temperatures getting above freezing. Tennis court resurfacing, on-site work of the tennis courts at Gobel Park is scheduled to take place June 15th and July 18th. And the Larev traffic signal, it's ongoing. Hope to have it ready for testing. We'll confirm when the opening day will be. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We'll now move on to
Screen.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Please provide information as to the anticipated go-live date for the new micro-grant stream of funding available to residents. And please include anticipated intake dates where residents will be able to access applications and any plans to communicate this exciting new development.
To item number 10, do we have any notices of motion?
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have any new notices of motions this evening.
Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes our public meeting tonight. Thank you for those of us who've been joining us online. We are now going to transition into a closed session. As a reminder, under the Section 1, prohibited from passing a resolution or bylaw during a closed session meeting. If there is a direction or decision reached, council will revert back to an open meeting to the public, and the direction will be recorded in the public minutes. The Freedom of Information Act, or I guess it's now called AITA, up there, this needs to be changed on my notes, outlines the items that would allow a council to close a council meeting, which includes matters where public disclosure could be harmful to third-party interests, third-party personal privacy, individual public safety, law enforcement, intergovernmental relations, or economic or other interests. So we are now going to go into closed session. I move that closed session that we move into, council move into closed session at 7:40 pursuant to the Access to Information Act sections 28 and 29. And thank you everyone for joining us online. Any discussion? We'll go into a vote. Did everyone vote? Yeah? Carried unanimously? All right. Might be this once that came after all. No.